Thank you, Governor Beshear, for your introduction and for being here today. But most importantly, thank you for constantly supporting and helping to nurture the arts throughout our Commonwealth. I'm especially grateful to be given the opportunity to serve our literary arts community as Kentucky Poet Laureate under the Beshear administration. It's been a comfort to so many of us to have you as our leader in Kentucky. Secretary Beshear, I look forward to working with you. I hope I don't drive you crazy. Okay, all right. But thank you for being here, for everything that you do for us, for all artists across Kentucky. At the onset of my remarks, I also want to say how deeply sorry I am for the devastation the citizens of Frankfort have had to endure, will endure, continue to endure because of the terrible recent flooding. Our hearts are with you, Frankfort, and we want to do everything we can to help you get back to where you were before this terrible natural disaster. Throughout my writing life, I've been so obliged to the Kentucky Arts Council for their outstanding work that supports, engages, and sustains our arts communities, which is to say all of our communities. I want to specifically thank Executive Director Chris Cathers and Arts Program Branch Manager Tamara Coffey for their ongoing efforts on behalf of Kentucky writers. I also want to say how much I appreciate the efforts of the Kentucky Humanities Council for all they do, but mainly for organizing and presenting the fabulous Kentucky Book Festival each year, giving Kentucky writers the opportunity to showcase our work alongside other nationally known writers. Thank you so much. It's important work and we appreciate it. I appreciate and admire my friends and colleagues back at Spalding University. Some are here with me today. I'm so thankful for that. Especially those at the Sina Jeter Naslett Karen Mann Graduate School of Writing, home of our flagship MFA in Writing program. I'm grateful that Spalding University has always been a welcoming place for the literary arts and for writers. Thank you to my friends and my family, my children, Wyatt, Casey, Vincent, and Quinn, who are here today. I appreciate them, their support, but most notably my husband, Terry Driskell. I don't know that any of this would be possible without him. And thank you to our talented youth poet laureate. It was wonderful work. I just enjoyed it so much. Myra Fossil, and to Silas House, my friend, my longtime friend, as he has put years on it, and our most recent poet laureate, who I've been saying since I learned about this is going to be a hard act to follow. So, as a Kentucky writer, I've taken immense pride in his tenure as poet laureate. I know as I crisscross our Commonwealth to share what I know about writing and the writing life, I will benefit greatly from his talent, his generosity, his big heart, and his humanity. I will rely upon all those qualities as ballast. So thank you, Silas, for all you've done for us. For that matter, I have gratitude for each of the poet laureates, the former poet laureates, many of whom I count as really good friends, and many of whom are in the rotunda, as you all know. They've been mentors to me. They've helped nurture my career, and I owe each of you so much. Many talk about writing as a solitary endeavor. I've never agreed with that notion. When I sit down to write, I never feel alone. Rather, I feel as if I'm surrounded by and connected to others, mainly my kin, I have to admit, but also those around me who've gone on before, and those I've never met, but are connected to me by place, and who appear and seem to be asking me to carry their stories forward. I believe when we engage our creativity, we are given access to the divine, to the sacred. When we activate our imaginations, we're activating our capacity to love ourselves and to love one another. We create a world that demonstrates our shared humanity, strengthened through, paradoxically, writing about the differences among us. Writing has given me a life I had no way to imagine. Growing up working class in the farmlands and tobacco fields of Odom County, and as I've said before, that was before Odom County was cool. I'm now a writing teacher, and in the classroom, I often ask students, many of whom want to pursue careers in education if they remember something wonderful a teacher has said to them in the past. Some do, but most are quicker to remember, and with their bodies as well as their minds, something cutting a teacher has said to them. So I understand words can be used with casual cruelty, even if unintentionally. But I also know that we can choose words that investigate, bring discovery, interrogate, help us prod the miraculous and the mysteries of our lives, while connecting us to one another and our humanity, even in turbulent and stormy times. I had a wonderful third grade teacher, Miss Walker, at Chenoweth Elementary School. We all loved her. I loved her. She was pretty, and she was young, and she seemed to actually be interested in us. Thinking back, I imagine Miss Walker might have been in her first year or two of teaching when I met her. One day she gave us an assignment. Each student was to write a poem, whatever that was. Some of the boys wrote poems about Hot Wheels and comparing a kid's room to a toilet, which still happens, even ethically to love. All right? Most of the girls wrote about being princesses or ballerinas. And the next morning, as I was hanging out my little yellow coat on a hook, she took me aside and told me I was to follow her to the principal's office. I nearly burst into tears, wondering what I had done wrong and how I was about to be punished. For those of you who know me, it may surprise you, but I was a very, very, very good girl. At least until the 4th grade. I took her hand and she led me to the school office. Once there, she pushed me up to the big wooden desk where a squat silver microphone sat. Miss Walker took my paper, smoothed it out in front of me, and told me I was to read my poem with the school's morning. Sad, it makes me sad. When my uncle gets home from Vietnam, I will be glad. This experience so many times over the years. I wondered if Miss Walker had a boyfriend or brother in Vietnam. She'd be about that age. A few months later, a dark sedan in a parents' home, and 2 men in blue Marine uniforms knocked at the door. Hearts were broken. But during that first heart, I somehow was sustained through that bewildering grief by my connection to writing and my first writing teacher. Connections which exist to this day, though I have not seen Miss Walker since I was in the 3rd grade. Even as an 8-year-old, I knew somehow that my lifeline. I couldn't comprehend then all the doors and windows that would open for me through my love of writing and reading. Some time ago, I realized that truly every good thing that has happened to me has happened through a connection with another writer, willing to share what they knew with me. I mentioned this before. Once in a while, someone will ask, "Don't you mean every good thing that's happened to you as a writer?" And I answer, no. I don't know how to separate my writing life from the other parts of my life. And I suspect many of you in here understand what I mean. All genres of art are important, of course, but there's something particularly humane about the work that writers bring us. Language and creativity at the end are largely the qualities that make us human. And when we find our writing lives, it's not surprising we often find our authentic lives. We deepen our own ability to practice compassion, and we make lasting ties with our loved ones, our communities, and we carry our history forward. Writers in this state recognize and appreciate that we're working out of a deep tradition of Kentucky storytellers, fiction writers, poets, memoirists, screenwriters, playwrights, songwriters, all kinds of writers in this state. But right now, right here, Kentucky is experiencing an abundance of diverse riches, thanks in large part to the talented people in this room who all do tremendous work to amplify what it means to not only be a Kentucky writer, but more importantly, what it means to be Kentuckian in all our shapes and colors, and as beautifully diverse, our beautifully diverse Kentuckians who populate our hills, our hollers, our glades, and plateaus, and prairie. My own writing has deep Kentucky roots. I consider myself a writer of place, but my work for the last 3 decades has been focused largely on about a square mile around my home, where I live outside of Louisville. What I've learned through that deep investigation of place is that we can write about anything we want to write about, even if we choose to stay close to home. Over the decades, I've been lucky to publish a number of books, but I think of 3 as my informal Kentucky trilogy. Seed Across Snow is focused on my family home in an old country church built before the American Civil War. When Terry and I moved in and began the huge restoration and renovation process ahead of us, one day a neighbor dropped in, and I think they were curious, wanted to see what the heck we were up to. But during that visit, they also mentioned that they believed, and most in our community believed, that the area around us, including our church, was haunted. After attending to a neighbor who was hit by a car and nearly killed in front of our home, as she'd come across the road to fetch her mail, and seeing a home nearby burned to the ground, and learning of a girl left for dead on the highway behind our home. Goat Man of Public at the end of our road. The Washington Post has called Goat Man of Public the most dangerous cryptid in America because he has actual deaths attributed to him. Sadly, mainly teens who have been told the way to lure the Goat Man out into the open is to wait for him in the middle of the trestle, which stands about 8 stories high. The trestle looks ramshackle, lulling kids into believing that no train still come down those tracks, but they still do, 2 or 3 times a day. So when I walk in a nearby park and I look out the window into the graveyard or hear the whistle of the Norfolk Southern train as it approaches the public trestle, through my imagination I can explore any theme and any subject I want. And those themes and subjects that are close to home, they are meaningful, and they're meaningful for all of us. I look forward to paying it forward and bringing all my teachers with me in spirit during my poet voyageship, and to share what I've been lucky enough to learn about writing and writing life. And I look forward, as all teachers do, to all I'm going to learn from my fellow writers and readers across Kentucky. I'm going to close my remarks by reading 3 poems. This is called To the Outdoor Wedding. All come forgive and bless the overripe bride who insists she will be married in the garden of her dead mother, though the guests in wedding party hiss and shiver as the light rain turns unrepentantly to pelting ice. All rise and love the narrow bridesmaids, numb and underdressed in lavender slivers and spaghetti strap, and listen to their teeth chatter as they scurry down the aisle, drawn to the collective body heat of the groomsmen and ministers shifting from foot to foot under the wavering trellis of altar. Praise the wind, picking up mightily, and the groom, unsteady and sallow, who does not beam when she appears in blown splendor on her father's arm. And the guests who are wet-faced, their heads bowed down to keep the sleet from stinging. It's the bride prayerful and confident in her white faith, you have to think, when a gust picks up and wraps her long veil 3 times around her father's head, shrouding him from the booming garden tent, from the Who else but her to be thankful to when instead of the tent, her veil snaps free from the Father's flailing and lifts high, then thrashes away over the Kentucky cornfields, just now brilliant in their new spring greening, the green shine, the sumptuous periwinkle sky, the brilliant white stratus folding into itself and dropping. The wind sends it sailing, and the guest heads up now, mouths open. As the veil transforms into a bucking Chinese dragon, taking away all that is gold, folding, dancing off and far. The guests gather themselves and offer the My first foray into college was to Murray, where I studied for about a year. I was an art student there, and I have no idea why. Land between the lakes. Long after dark had fallen and the trail left behind, long after the dog chased into the unfamiliar woods disappeared, she, long gone into oaks and hickory and brush, and likely back asleep on the porch of my new boyfriend's cabin, I saw in the distance a fire and walked toward it. There in their camp, orange lights flashing across their rough bearded faces, creased in dirt, unruly feral hair, tin cups in grimy hands, like that movie. Relaxing, they mocked and jabbed at each other after a long day of timbering. Nearly all jumped up when I wanted them, but the youngest, a teenager, stayed seated, continued pawing at the ground with a hatchet while I spoke as if he were embarrassed. I was about his age and pretty enough, as if that ever matters, and alone in the woods, completely soaked in fear, finding no real relief in discovering their camp. I counted quickly. There were 8 of them, their eyes as astonished as mine that we were there together, miles away from everyone and everything in the middle of the dark night woods. They huddled a few moments, looking over to Ivy, then back to Hush Talk. Finally, 2 set down their whiskeys. It had been determined. They would be the ones to drive me back. The drive was quiet for me in the middle of the cab, pointing out turns, when I stumbled from the old logging truck into the washing blue lights of the sheriff and deputy's cars. I rushed into the arms of a man I would only date a few more weeks. It's good to remember this kindness of men, especially in the times we are living. Thank you, and I'll close with this poem. Walk in the graveyard with my mother. On her visit, my 80-year-old mother wants to walk among the old headstones of the small graveyard next to our home. She wants to see if she remembers any of the names of those buried there, though no one next door is any of our kin, and her memory has been shot for years. Still, she leads her little gray dog through the grass, and I follow close by. I say, look here. This is the oldest grave. It stooped to pull the long grass and wild carrots, nearly obscuring the blunted stone of Alpha Beta Blankenbaker, infant, 1854. Alone, abandoned here 100 or more years. I'm trying to recall, my mother says, which side of the family she comes from. On this earth, at this moment, it feels as if we, too, are the only ones alive who know that tiny Alpha Beta Blanket Baker was in our world only for a day, that she existed. She's from our side, I'd say. Council, giving me the opportunity to share what I know and love about the writing life and writing with others in our commonwealth. I want to thank each of you for being here today. It means so much to me, and it means so much to our writing community in general. Thank you all so much.